Before every glass, so that can be 8 or 10 times a day, I have that little bit of Celtic salt. Why do I have that little bit of Celtic salt? I have that little bit of Celtic salt because it contains 3 magnesiums. And magnesium is required to get the water into the cell. So when I have that little bit of salt and then that glass of water, that pulls the water inside the cell. And this is the CBD. This is where the body needs that fluid. When people have swollen ankles, swollen legs, it's usually an indication that the water is not getting inside the cell. One lady who had a tendency to swollen legs, she said to me, if I don't drink enough water, my legs swell much more. There are 3 magnesiums in the Celtic salt. You see, seawater has 92 minerals. It's called an isotonic solution because it is the exact same mineral proportion and balance as is found in the blood, in the fluids of the body. In fact, in the war, the Navy used to transfuse with seawater if they were short on blood, because the body converts it very quickly to blood. The first crystals formed when the water's evaporated from seawater is sodium chloride. Sodium makes up about 30% of these minerals, and chloride makes up approximately 50%. They're the first crystals formed. So what man does is he scoops up those crystals, bleaches it white, puts aluminium with it so it flows freely. Well, it'll flow very freely if it doesn't have the magnesium, because magnesium is a water-hungry molecule that causes the salt to be moist. So now we have table salt. Table salt is a dangerous salt. The doctor is right. Table salt will cause your blood pressure to rise, because table salt is an imbalanced salt. It only has the 2 minerals. These are such harsh minerals, if you were to inject them into the person, they would die. They're such harsh minerals, they kill the taste buds. No wonder people put table salt on everything, even before they taste the food, because these 2 harsh minerals can kill the taste buds. So when we put that little crystal of Celtic salt on our tongue and then have the water, the mucous membranes in the mouth absorb those minerals, and you have the water, and the magnesium pulls the water inside the cell. Something else happens when you pull the water inside the cell. There's a little motor in the membrane around the cell, and when the water rushes through, it stimulates the movement of that little motor, and you get a little bit of energy. So when everyone's going outside to have their cigarette or their coffee for a little bit of a lift mid-morning in the office, just have your Celtic salt and your water, and you'll experience that little bit of a lift. Dr. Lelangri is a French doctor who's written a whole book on salt. He says when someone comes to him with high blood pressure, he always puts them on the Celtic salt. You see, Celtic salt has 82 minerals. It's a balanced salt. It's salt the way God meant us to have it. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 13, the Bible says, "Ye are the salt of the earth. If the salt has lost its savour, wherewith shall it be salted? It is henceforth good for nothing but to be cast out and trodden under foot of men." Oh, strong words. If the salt has lost its savour. This is Old English. How does salt lose its savour? I'd like to suggest that this salt has lost its savour. It's lost the other 90 minerals. So where are the other 10 here? They're in such pico proportions, barely measurable, that it's inevitable that some are lost in the evaporation process. So I thought you might be surprised to hear me say the Celtic salt is important to keep the heart with all diligence, and even the issue of life coming out of it. Have you tasted your blood? It's salty. We need salt. Let me show you how table salt gets the blood pressure up. If someone's having table salt on everything and they're not having enough potassium, where do we find our potassium? In all your fresh fruits and vegetables. On our table we have salt and pepper. The pepper is cayenne pepper and the salt is Celtic salt. And cayenne pepper is quite high in potassium too. But there are a lot of people today that don't have many fresh fruit and vegetables and they're having too much salt. So what happens is the potassium levels start to drop and the sodium levels inside the cell start to rise. The potassium and sodium pumps are struggling to try and keep the balance purely because they're lacking potassium and there's too much sodium coming in. And osmosis and diffusion happens when the highest concentration merges into the lower. What happens when sodium levels rise in the cell? That cell swells. There's your high blood pressure. So the doctor is right. The table salt is a big contributing factor to high blood pressure. But the Celtic salt, it can help to balance the pressure in and out of the cell, thus helping to resolve high blood pressure. High blood pressure is one of the signs that the heart is not being kept with all diligence, neither the issues of life. So the Celtic salt is important. Here is the molecular structure of human blood. Here is the molecular structure of plant blood. They look identical, don't they? But there is a difference. In plant blood, the middle molecule is magnesium. In human blood, the middle molecule is iron. That's the only difference. So when you're having lots of greens, even to the point of drinking green barley every day, maybe some chlorophyll, super greens, you're not only strengthening the blood, you are increasing your magnesium. You are increasing your magnesium when you have the Celtic salt. Magnesium is the ultimate muscle relaxer. You see, your heart, it pumps because of calcium and magnesium. Calcium constricts, magnesium relaxes. Calcium constricts, magnesium relaxes. That's how it goes. So when you're having nice amounts of magnesium, it helps to relax the heart at rest. And in blood pressure, that bottom reading is what the doctor looks for. Your high one is your systolic and your low one is your diastolic. And when it goes above 90, that's when the doctor gets concerned. If you're ensuring adequate amounts of magnesium through eating lots of green vegetables, by having the Celtic salt with its 3 magnesiums, then that encourages the heart to relax more at rest.